Hello, and welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a look at this guy named Makhir, who says you can run Linux and Windows on Mac! Now, if it hasn't been apparently obvious by the tone of my voice, this is an interesting choice to me. I can't imagine why you would want to run Linux on a Mac, because it's sort of like, Linux is open source, and so you have all these amazing tools on Linux that are free and open source, and I'm almost certain that all of them are already on Mac. So why is it that if you own a Mac that you want to have a Linux virtual machine? I can think of very niche use cases where all you're really going to be wanting is like the CLI, but for some reason this is branded as Linux and Windows on Mac, and it's probably because Linux is super trendy right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump right into this, and I'm gonna do my best to let you, the viewer, understand why I'm so flustered by this opening.
When Apple made the switch to Apple Silicon, we got rid of the slow and heat-prone Intel CPUs that spun up the fan when you open 2 Google Chrome tabs. Genuinely, Apple Silicon is unbeatable. If you're still using Windows laptops, no hate, I just don't understand why you would do that. Well, that's because a lot of software is only available on Windows. But what if I told you that you can run Windows and Linux on your Mac? I'm gonna show you how to do it. We're gonna run some gaming benchmarks across different Macs, and hopefully get you away from Intel. Now, we're gonna use Parallels, which they did happen to sponsor this video. But I've actually been using Parallels to run Windows for years. In fact, this video and this video I made was not sponsored, which I kinda wish it was, because it got a lot of views. I just made that video because I genuinely do use Parallels a lot. So you can click my affiliate link if you find that Parallels is the right fit for you, but all the opinions in this video are my own, and I'm gonna tell you the honest upsides and downsides of Parallels after like half a decade of use, well before they ever reached out to me.
I mean, you gotta be freaking kidding me, dude. I mean, yes, Apple Silicon is seriously unmatched. Like, I am so jealous of the battery life and the processor power that comes with it. But as I've said before, the main value to me is 100% in what you're getting in the hardware. Like, when anything goes bad on your Mac, that's it, you're toast. You can just fork out your wallet for another Mac to replace essentially one part. So why don't you just go ahead and buy a whole new Mac at that point? It's just preposterous, and it's not really worth it in my mind. So when I hear people, and I hear him in this video say, no hate, but like, why would you even use a Windows laptop? And the answer is, well, that's because some apps only work on Windows. Why don't you just buy a MacBook for the battery life and the processing power needed for your development or your video encoding, and then just buy a PC that's capable of running all the games that you would ever want to run, and then remote into it using an open source software like Moonlight and Sunshine, or I think there's Apollo and Artemis now. I'm not too familiar with that. But yeah, there's a multitude of free options that you can gain benefits from each side without having to just shell out your money to a closed ecosystem like Apple and their Macintoshes. When you can just have a PC that is already modular, you can swap out the graphics cards and the CPU and the RAM. I mean, given the current market, maybe not, but the principle is still there, and I guarantee you that market will eventually go back to where it is supposed to be, at a reasonable price point. The GPUs started coming down a bit. I think the RAM prices and storage prices eventually will decrease closer to, where they used to be at some point.
So like I said, on my main computer, which is a 2021 M1 Max 16-inch MacBook Pro, I've had Parallels ever since I bought the computer. But I'm gonna benchmark games on this base M2 Mac Mini and this M3 MacBook Air, which is fanless. So one of the biggest upsides is the setup for Parallels is hella easy. You just download it, click next, and it'll give you all these pre-built options, with Windows 11 being the most common one. We'll get to the Linux options. So you just click the Windows 11 option and sit back. Parallels will download Windows 11 for you and install it for you. You don't have to format, partition the hard drive, boot from the USB, or nothing. Another great upside is Parallels integrates super well with your Mac, which is hella useful for me.
Oh yeah, guys. Parallels is hella fucking tight. Let me tell you right now, I absolutely love paying so much a year when I could just have a KVM virtual machine that does everything for free and is open source. Ha, no way, brother. How about we get some hella fucking subscription payments coming out of my wallet? I mean, it's so ridiculous to see this get. This is an ad. If you guys haven't been able to tell, this video is essentially just a sponsored ad for Parallels. I know he said that he has promoted it in the past for free, and you know what? Good on him. If you're paying for a service and you really like it and you're doing it for free, I think there might be something wrong with you. I do it with Framework, but to each their own. And you're using words like it's hella fast, and frankly, no hate, I don't get why you're not using a Mac with Parallels. It's because I fucking value my privacy. I value not having a subscription service for something that's easily done fucking free. It doesn't make any sense to me why this is the path that he wants to go. I just don't understand how Parallels in this subscription service is what we're trying to push out to people to essentially run Windows on a Mac. The solution is not to buy a Mac and then pay a subscription service on this guy's fucking affiliate link to get access to your Linux machine. Just go buy a Windows laptop or better yet, a Framework. Sponsor, hello, knocking on your door, Narav. Linux and Mac OS are perfectly capable of running Windows applications. In fact, Linux can run Windows applications natively through compatibility layers through Wine and Proton and so on. So it just baffles me why this is the solution.
Super well with your Mac, which is hella useful for me. So when you click full screen, it auto-adjusts your screen resolution, and it runs like it's native on your MacBook. Plus, the most helpful feature is the file integration. Everything you have on your Mac desktop downloads, documents, or whatever, is also available on your Windows desktop documents and downloads. Plus, when you connect any external accessory like an SSD or a USB drive, Parallels asks you if you want it to connect to Mac or Windows. I need this all the time to burn bootable USBs or DVDs. The downside is though that it is flimsy. It works most of the time, but sometimes you just can't get the SSD or USB drive to show up on Windows without a restart. But the consistency has definitely improved with each update. And we're going to absolutely need this because I'm going to install all the games that we're going to run on this 2TB SSD.
Okay, I'm going to give it to you right there. I think this is a very neat feature that can be beneficial to the tech normies that don't want to waste their time learning how to use software and have control of it for themselves. If you enjoy the fact that you could dual boot as easily as just clicking on a button on your dock and opening up Windows for whatever reason you want to be on Windows for, and then access Windows that way. In this case, this guy is saying to play games. That's actually a very valid reason. However, he's putting everything on an external drive, so I don't know why you wouldn't just pass that drive through to the virtual machine. It's besides the point. But for me, I don't understand why you would want to have your virtual machine just so easily integrated to all your Mac files. Again, unless I said it was for the case of dual booting. Don't ever, for any reason, if you've seen things online where they say, oh yeah, just use a virtual machine if you want to protect yourself from getting hacked and run test viruses. I'm sure a lot of you cybersecurity heads already know that, but there's a lot of people who don't like to go the route of, actual education or deep research. They want things easy and they want to pay a subscription for Parallels. So they sign up for this and then they end up infesting their entire computer. And I really hope that somebody out there watching this can grasp that concept. If you're new to this whole world and you're wondering, why is Parallels a bad idea? Why is Ubiquitous telling me that Parallels is bad? It's because there is someone out there who will use Parallels thinking that they're in a virtual machine and that they can protect themselves and sandbox whatever they're doing. You're not. You're basically using your Mac. I would just recommend a whole separate computer. A Framework 13, awesome. ThinkPad, awesome. Anything else that doesn't run Mac Silicon and you can virtualize it, awesome.
Now let's get to Windows gaming. Parallels is going to be your best bet when it comes to compatibility with Windows games because you're running the full Windows 11 experience. The downside is that there's going to be a lot of processing power wasted since you're running the full Windows environment. And as we all know, Windows 11 has a lot of load. So when you install Windows 11, you get Windows 11 ARM on Parallels, which honestly Microsoft has done an exceptional job running x86 64 apps on ARM. So how Apple runs old Intel apps through Rosetta 2, Microsoft runs x86 64 apps through Prism. And I've not really run into any issues using it. You don't even realize what apps are running natively and what apps are running through Prism. So the 3 Macs we're going to test is this M1 Max MacBook Pro with 32 gigs of memory and 32 GPU cores. This was the top of the line MacBook I bought when it came out. Then we have the 2023 base M2 Mac Mini with 16 gigs of memory. This does have a fan and a 10-core GPU. And then finally we have the fanless MacBook Air with an M3 chip, 16 gigs of memory, and an 8-core GPU. So let's get to gaming.
Why do you own so many Macs, my guy? They're not, I mean, I'm just getting picky at this point, but why do you own so many Macs? It's like, I get it for the experimental purposes, that's totally fair. I have a Mac Mini M2 Pro I gifted a while back. I have access to that device, and I've thought, why don't I just run experiments on there to do some benchmark testing? And you know, if there ever comes a use case for that, I'm sure that I'd be able to just grab it and pick it up and do something. But I have thought about in the future, like if I'm ever able to get my hands on a MacBook for dirt cheap for testing purposes, that I would do that. Therefore, I'd have 2 Macs, and I'd have my framework, and I'd have my desktop, and a litany of other devices scattered around, my old ThinkPad, you name it. But I don't know, I'm on a pointless tangent. Let's get on to the gaming aspect of what it's like gaming on a Mac.
The first game I want to try out is GTA 5. The way you install it is pretty much exactly how you would do it on any other Windows PC. Just download the Rockstar Games Launcher, download the game, and you're good. Even though I don't play online, Rockstar did add BattleEye to GTA 5, which on Linux and Steam Deck doesn't work. But on Parallels, it does work, so you can play online. Now for the M1 Max, I first ran it at 720p-ish at normal settings, and the FPS was just too high. So I turned it up to slightly higher than 1080p, and the FPS was still too high, dipping up and down. Now I'm trying to target a lock 30 FPS. So actually, I turned up a few settings to high, and now finally we're hovering just above the 30 FPS mark. Bro, this is a 4-year-old chip running it this well. Imagine how well the M5 Max will run it.
Oh my god, I take back everything I just said about being jealous of these chips. Fuck Apple for their goddamn lack of awful ass gaming chipsets. I know they're not intended for gaming, and I get that, and that's why, like, you know, for making YouTube videos, they're probably really nice. They're expensive ass machines that are great for YouTube content, but let's keep it real, guys. Who says that, who says that the frame rate was too high? What the fuck? I mean, come on, man, you're trolling with me. This isn't real life. The gaming frame rate was too high. And yeah, it was bouncing all over the place. So I can understand why you would want to target a 30. I can't understand why you'd want to target a 30 FPS unless you were just trying to have something stable. But I mean, dude, if you're getting the full Windows 11 experience, why didn't you just run MSI Afterburner? Why didn't you just run some third-party program that locks the frame rate for you externally? And even capping, and you're maxing it out at 30 FPS, that's your goal. Dude, that is an awful experience to have. Do you know how many people are bitching at Rockstar to update the Red Dead Redemption 2 console version across Xbox and PlayStation to be able to run at 60 frames a second, as opposed to the 30 that it's currently locked down at? And their response is likely going to be that they're going to re-release the game and resell it to you just to have the 60 FPS. But on PC, it's always been, you can max it out to like as high as the best GPU and CPU combo could get you on a PC. And on a Linux machine, it's gonna run even better because there's less overhead than the Windows 11 bloat. So why the fuck are you paying this dumbass subscription to get the full Windows 11 experience, and you're shooting and you're praying for a 30 FPS cap in GTA 5, a fucking 13-year-old game at this point? What the fuck?
Let's move on to Far Cry 5, which on the base M2 Mac Mini wasn't doing too hot on normal settings at 1080p. But then again, 1080p might be a bit too much for this base chip. So turning it down to 720p with low settings, we now have playable frame rates.
God, dude, you're shooting for 720p low, and that's playable for you at 39, average of 33 frames a second? Holy shit, this is the stupidest fucking way to play games. Just buy a fucking gaming laptop at that point. Oh my lord, my guy, this is not a good solution. The amount of money you're spending a month in Parallels for gaming at 720 low with 30 frames a second, get the fuck out of here. You have got to be joking right now.
I tried the same normal settings with 1080p config on the M3 MacBook Air, but it still couldn't handle it. We have to go down to 720p at low settings to get playable frame rates. On the M1 Max, we're sticking in.
And the M3 chip was even slower than the M2.
1080p, but normal settings still wouldn't give us playable frame rates. At low settings though, we're doing good. I think Far Cry 5 just isn't a very well optimized game.
I mean, fair enough if you're gonna say that Far Cry 5 isn't a well-optimized game. I remember, oh god, years ago I was playing the game and I almost wanted to start a gaming channel because of just the sheer glitches that would occur in that game. I actually might need to go download that and play it again, so long as there's no like any weird anti-cheats that are installed. But I think it's playable on Linux. I'm gonna have to give it a shot sometime. Maybe I'll stream that. Leave a comment if you want to see me stream some Far Cry 5 on Linux. But yeah, I can't believe that he's just like, well, it's just a poorly optimized game, but you know, my Mac is still a fucking champ. Parallels, I love it. You're getting ripped off and you are like, wait a minute, this is a piece of shit software. Can I get sponsored to rip other people off too and encourage them to have a shitty fucking experience with gaming? Money, baby.
Okay, so like I mentioned before, Parallels can also run Linux. Again though, these pre-built options are amazing because Parallels downloads the ISO and then also auto-installs. You don't have to do anything during the setup process. Linux is also hella quick at installing. And again, you get all the regular features like the resolution automatically matching your screen and sharing folders with your Mac.
You've already disappointed me on the gaming front with Windows. Are you gonna try gaming on Linux?
It's the full Linux experience on your Mac, and it is pretty seamless. However, I do want to mention a few caveats. This is not meant for gaming, since we use Proton on Linux, and Proton needs Vulkan. Proton basically translates Windows DirectX API calls into Vulkan. However, you do not have Vulkan support on Parallels, so gaming, especially AAA gaming, is a no-go. Stick to Windows 11 on Parallels to play your games.
Okay, so never mind. You can't even play games on it because you're not getting the full Linux experience. You're getting the ARM experience, which arguably is, I would argue that the ARM experience on Linux current day is a very neutered experience. It is not the full Linux experience. So what is your definition of the full experience exactly? If you can't even like play games, the Steam frame I know is going to be on an ARM chip, and there's is it FEC? Is that what it is that they're using to use a compatibility layer to get the games working? I'm excited to see what Valve does with that. But how exactly am I getting the full Linux experience here?
You may have noticed that we do have an Ubuntu with Rosetta option, which is supposed to help run some x86 64 apps on Linux through Rosetta. Now, I couldn't think of a use case for me personally, since once gaming is out, I don't really use Linux for anything, but yeah, you do have that option. However, apart from gaming compatibility, the native apps, for example on Ubuntu, work great. It is really snappy and well optimized. It doesn't feel like you're running it in a VM at all.
I mean, you're not really running it in a VM if it has access to all of your Mac's files. You're running it in I mean, it technically is a VM, but you're not sandboxing anything. You're just running Linux, which, again, I choose Linux as my daily operating system. But why on earth would you want to run Linux in a VM as, like, if you can't game on it, especially, to do your day-to-day stuff, if Mac is right there? Mac is still going to access all of the files inside of your VM, and your VM is already accessing all of your Mac files. So you're already opening yourself up to a security breach there. So it just doesn't make any sense to me if this video, literally, I'm getting baited into, I'm aware of it, is just a long form ad for this guy to get affiliate money for Parallels. And no hate if you want to have an affiliate link. If you want an affiliate link and you want to earn a commission to redirect somebody to something you like, fair game. But just understand there's going to be guys like me watching your video and realizing you're promoting shit and trash, and that you're trying to make money off of others taking in shit and trash. This is a fucking awful product. I don't know why anybody would use Parallels for Linux. I don't know why anybody would use Parallels for gaming. Just go get yourself a dedicated Linux laptop, a dedicated gaming machine, and for God's sakes, if you're gonna do virtual machine work, I strongly just recommend you make a kernel level virtual machine with Linux. It's open source, it utilizes your hardware properly, and it's completely free. And just avoid the subscription model altogether when these are things that you can either access completely for free, or you can own the device and have an entirely dedicated machine for these specific cases. You're going to get better performance anyway, and your privacy is respected in the process. So anyway, that's my take on this whole situation. I think this guy is missing the mark here, and I'm trying to be really nice, but I think that he's got a very bad take on virtual machines, on the value of a Mac and Linux. I think he's missing the mark completely. This is a bad video, but maybe you think it's a good video. Maybe you should go give him a like. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed the video today, go ahead and hit subscribe, leave a like. I will see you again in the next video. Thanks again for watching. Goodbye.